Hello and welcome to Conversations with Elise Quevedo. I am back with Edwin Diener, Chief Digital Transformation Officer of the Enterprise Business Group at Huawei. Hi Edwin, great to see you again. How are you?
Hello Elise, and thank you for having me again. It's been a while, but I'm happy to be back on your channel. Thank you very much.
It's been a while indeed. Now, Edwin, a few days ago, I saw one of your presentations and you unboxed and presented to the world a productivity tool called IdeaHub, which, by the way, I can see on your background. And is that IdeaHub on the t-shirt that I read?
It is. Can you see it? It says right here, IdeaHub.
Very cool. Now, this is what you call preparation.
It's exactly what it is. It is a hub for new ideas.
Wow. So then let's start with that. Can you give us a summary of what Huawei's IdeaHub is all about?
Well, what it is a family of products. That's the first thing what it is. And these products entail into productivity tools and devices. For example, to allow people to work across teams and departments and share information across teams and departments, regardless of location, even regardless of time zones. What it also is a family of products that allows teams and departments to collaborate internally much better. So not just with external or across teams and departments, but also within a team and within a department. For example, in meeting rooms or in group discussions, or team sessions, where there's always a lot of hassle about who has the marker for the whiteboard. Don't use the marker of the paper flip over because that's a permanent marker, and you don't want to write with a permanent marker on a whiteboard because then you need all these, all this stuff to clean it out and so on and so forth. If you want to share information in a team session via a projector or a beamer or whatever you want to call it, cables are entwined and all knotted and whatever, or the cables aren't there. The projector sits on a table, but it's too low. You need to find some books to put it on. You need to zoom in, zoom out, and put it in focus. It's just a lot of hassle and takes away most of the time that you actually need to get going with the momentum that's in the room. The energy in the room loses itself and drains itself for all of that. So this is a tool. This is a family of products that takes all of that away.
Amazing. Thank you for answering that. And you mentioned the office. So I would like to ask you about the cloud capabilities of IdeaHub. As for what I saw, it seems very powerful. And just like you said, having to use too many cables now seems to be a thing of the past with IdeaHub. So what would the biggest benefits be when it comes to smart office usage for IdeaHub?
Well, there are a few. If you think about conventional boards or smart boards, even for that matter, then these are quite heavy, rather fixed, if you like. Some even mounted on a wall because there's no pedestal for it, or a rig to put them on and to pull them around the office, for example. So one thing that we've covered is that we've created a solution that is wall mounted, but also a solution that does not necessarily have to be mounted on a wall. It can be mounted on a stand, and this stand is robust, but also very light, and it rolls around the office quite easily. What it also does, it connects everything and anything rather wireless. That really means you really don't need any cable, no HDMI or V24, which sometimes your computer supports, sometimes your computer does not. Or sometimes your computer supports it from a cable connection point of view, but maybe not from a screen resolution or high definition point of view versus what your computer versus what the screen has, and so on and so forth. So those things are solved. The only cable it has is the cable for power. Another thing that it solves, it has a UPS built in, like a battery pack almost, which means that if you unplug the cable from the wall, from the power socket, not from the connection, but from the power socket, I think between 4 and 6 hours, let's say battery uptime, almost like your smartphone basically has also been covered and solved in this one. So you just unplug it, you move it to another meeting room or a larger meeting room, or you log off and let someone else use it and let them use their login and credentials. It is done. Another thing that is arranged within this is something that you don't realize very much. So the first thing you don't realize is that you actually waste a lot of time, and you're losing group dynamics if you need to get things going first. So that part is solved, as I mentioned before in my previous answer. But the second one relates to something else. If you're working with smart screens and screens at all, these are very brain draining. I'm sure everybody understands that. And that's because of blue light. Very harmful blue light, and there are settings in all these devices that you can activate that kind of takes that away. But these settings also changes a bit of the color. It makes it a bit more yellow. So in return, what you're then trying to do is you're trying to get the brightness of the colors back, which makes you bypass the reason why you're putting this feature on, because that's for for the health of your eyesight. So we've embedded a combination of hardware and software together within this screen that automatically adjusts in the right way, not only the color and the brightness settings, but it also takes out the harmful blue light and transposes that into harmless blue light, which, by the way, is tested and certified by TÜV in Germany, one of the highest institutions when it comes to these kind of certifications. And another thing that sits within it is what I think is astonishing. If you're working with conventional screens or smart screens, if you want to put an eye on a dot when you're writing, right? You're writing on the screen and you put an eye and then the dot on the eye. It's almost never exact or accurate. And when you're writing, there's a bit of a delay, so it looks like you're writing in the wrong direction or something is not really adding up. Also, both of these two, what we call hidden issues, if you think about it, it becomes an issue. If this is the only thing then that's what it is and that's what you're used to. But in this particular screen that we have that is embedded in the IdeaHub family of products, we've covered that as well, and we've overcome this. It really is like writing with a pen on paper or with a whiteboard marker on a whiteboard. It is that accurate, and it's also that featureful. And last but not least, if at least in my case, my handwriting isn't that well, whatever language I write in. So it's not that beautiful, so to speak. So I really got to pay attention to clean and nice writing, which number one slows down, but number two can also be solved. We build in a feature that actually understands your handwriting and that transposes that handwriting into a system font. So the benefit of that is, number one, everybody can read what you're writing. Number two, if they cannot, or if the transposition is not going correctly, you can just correct one or two words instead that you have to wipe the whole screen and write it again. But thirdly, if you're in a session where you need to copy paste text or input or diagrams or anything that you've drawn on such a smart screen, conventional smart screens, and you want to copy paste that into a document that you're simultaneously working on, doesn't really scale and actually doesn't really work. So those features combined within this screen completely solved.
And I was talking to somebody the other day that had not seen the presentation, and we were discussing what it was, and they said, Elise, how would you summarize it in one sentence? And I was like, it's like back in the day in the office when we used to have the normal flip charts. I said, imagine a digital version on steroids. I said, that was for me, my interpretation of what IdeaHub is, because you roll it in, you roll it out like back in the old days, but now you have this digital way thanks to technology. And for me as a traveler or somebody that goes into many offices, I think this is a benefit, the no cables situation, because the number one thing you always get asked, what laptop do you have? What cables do you need? And you mentioned not every computer has the same ports, not everything. Sometimes you forget it back home. Then you have to go to a local store to buy a cable because the office that you're in doesn't have one. So if we can solve this situation and so many different people can use it so easily, I can see the benefits of having this in an office. So you've mentioned many.
And I really see a tremendous amount of benefits just by using it, and by realizing that in traditional and conventional ways of having a meeting with a flip over or a whiteboard or even a smart screen, you don't realize actually that there are certain things within there that could be more efficient. Another example is when you're sharing your information, for example, from your computer screen to this intelligent screen. Then in most situations, if you want to move from one page to the other page, or if you want to go from paragraph to paragraph, or from one slide to the other slide, whatever information you're sharing, you always have to go back to where you put your computer in order to do that on your computer. What we've covered on this screen as well is that, because it's like a supersized smart screen, you know, like a smartphone screen or tablet screen. You just, you know, you swipe your finger and you don't need to go to where your computer is or ask someone else, could you go to the next page, please? Or could you go back? And last but not least, which I also think is quite interesting, in the conventional way of working, even if it's conventional smart screens, at the end of your session, you need to wipe your screen clean for the next version to go on. With a whiteboard, you take a picture that someone else then needs to put in a computer, and so on and so forth. But on a smart screen, you also need to do that. You need to take a picture of whatever you've drawn or written down or agreed, you know, as background information, and then, you know, you clean the screen and you move on. We found a way to actually make it more intuitive. Whatever is on the screen, if you want to save it or whatever, you just click on the screen and you select the option that says, where does it need to go to? Well, send it to my email address, or send it to my WhatsApp, send it to my social media messaging channel, or send it to my email, or upload it to my cloud, you know, a file server, or wherever that is. Tremendously efficient if you think about it, the screen.
Yeah, and you've used the word easy a few times, and I can definitely understand anyone watching this thinking, oh yeah, you know, this is never as easy as it looks. But during your presentation, you actually demonstrated how easy it was to use. And one of the examples was hashtag as easy as pen and paper, because you could write and literally wipe it off with your hand. Reminded me back in the day of a chalkboard, and you would write something and you quickly erased it. You even invited the audience at home to do a drawing, which I also did, by the way. So let me show you my drawing.
Oh, you did?
Okay. Edwin.
Yeah, we did a drawing class, and we said it's quite easy together to be in a drawing class. That is exactly what I've tried to teach. Yeah, right? Wow, you were able to do it.
To everyone watching, you have to watch Edwin's presentation, and then this will make sense to you. But yes, I did follow your guidelines. So what makes IdeaHub be so responsive and accurate technologically?
Yeah, then we have to look inside the technology of how these things are being baked and cooked and prepared and manufactured and produced. The way it works with touch screens and smart screens is that there are two screens together, and there's a layer of space between these two screens that goes for your smartphone, goes for your tablet, also goes for your touch screen if that's on your computer, or a supersize smart screen in class, for example, or in your meeting room. The closer these layers are, so the smaller the gap between the inner and outer screens together, the thinner that is, so to speak, or the closer these screens are, the more accurate it becomes. But that goes along with a bit of quality. So you have to apply a bit of innovation and a bit of knowledge of what to do with screens. And as the audience, but also as you know, we are one of the leading companies when it comes to smartphones and smart devices, which have those screens. So we've reused those technologies and those learning points into an idea that we said, we need a supersized version, touch screen, as if it is a tablet, as if it is a computer screen that you can touch, or as if it is your smartphone screen. So there's a zero gap right now, which is on your smartphone already, that makes it very accurate. But it's also in this supersized screen that you can put on your wall if you like, which is larger than life. So that's one. So there's a zero gap issue between the inner and outer layer of the screens. That makes it more accurate. Secondly, the responsiveness of the screen is depending on how the inner technology and the computing power that sits within, or the processing power, I should say, how the processing power is able to process and calculate all these changes that you make when your hand with a stylo or a marker or just plain finger is on the screen as you're writing and as you go along. And that sits with latency So the better ability for computing power to be processed and for processing power to be computed, which is also an element and an area that Huawei has on server storage and in the IT infrastructure side of the equation. We understand what it takes to have processors and computing services to match and to work at the highest level of calculation power and clock time, and so to speak. So we've embedded that as well. So there's virtually no latency. Well, there is a bit of latency, like always, but the latency is not noticeable because it is so low. But as you're writing or as you're drawing, there is virtually not visible latency, and that makes it very natural. So it's really we call it a natural handwriting experience, as if pen on paper or an ink marker on a whiteboard or a flip over.
I have to say, most people watching, and you, Edwin, now, I've been following Huawei now for just over 3 years. And there is one thing that I've learned, or it keeps being validated from time to time, and is that you guys never release a product unless it's a win-win. So your answers on this question kind of back it up, because there is a lot of research that goes into what you do. For example, I did watch the annual report just a few days ago, and on my write-up, on my recap, I actually said this. The one thing I've learned, even though in some markets there was a decrease on sales, the overall, Huawei still had a growth through such a challenging year. And that's what I learned. That was my key takeaway overall, that no matter what, Huawei will never release a product unless they know it's pretty much nearly, I'm not going to say 100% because things can go wrong, but pretty much on a win-win, that you're not going to have a recall. Because if I remember correctly, and I'm not going to name any brands here, a couple of years ago during Mobile World Congress, I think everybody's going to know what I'm talking about. There was a big issue with one brand versus the other, who were trying to be the first to release something, but they didn't have a win-win because Huawei took a little bit slower. They took it just by a couple of weeks, and then they did it right. And it shows you don't always have to be the fastest. You don't even have to be the first, as long as you invest in what you're doing and you're, as we said, 90% plus or 95% plus sure that your product works. Because let's talk IdeaHub. We're not talking about a little screen. You mentioned the cell phones, the smartphone quality, where it's easier, I would say, to make sure that every touch point, but the bigger the screen, such as IdeaHub, we're talking about a bigger screen. To be so accurate, you definitely have to know what you're doing. So I was quite impressed to see how it works, because I've seen others sometimes that it's like, oh, you have to stick up to the center because we are not sure how to make sure that full on, even the borders are working.
Well, it also goes a little bit further. I like the way you just said, you don't necessarily have to be the first. You don't have to be the first, but you have to be the best. And this is also being recognized. This is not me being proud of the company I represent, because of course I am. But this is also validated and acknowledged by third-party organizations. Frost & Sullivan, the global analyst organization, provided this particular family of products, and also this particular one flagship product, this IdeaHub board, with one of their collaboration devices, a global award. It has the Red Dot Design Award also received. And from a technical point of view, when you look at the capabilities of itself and this harmless blue light item within the screen itself, has been certified by TÜV Rheinland in Germany as a high standard in eye comfort and what have you. It really is a super cool product. The other things that we didn't say yet, but I'm going to say it now. It is not just a super-size smart screen like a tablet or a smartphone. If this is not your way of working, for example, if this is not your style of working, because you're more of a computing or a PC kind of person, then there is a little button on the left-hand corner. It's not really a button, it's an icon. If you click it, without anything, the mode of operation, the way the screen then works, it flips virtually from a smartphone mode that speaks to an app store that can retrieve apps that you can put on this one, just like on your smartphone or your tablet, as you would do now. You would download it, you would activate it, you would register, you would get a login name and a password, and you would proceed as you go on. For example, a collaboration application like the ones that we provide, or Zoom or other collaboration tooling. But if this is not your way of working, if you're the kind of person that prefers a computing environment, by clicking this little icon in the bottom part of the screen, it flips to a Windows operation mode without anything. And what you then see is as if it is a computer screen, which again, you can touch with your finger, of course. But as if your finger is the mouse, you would click on the Windows button on the left-hand corner. And if you would do that, you would get this pop-up screen with a tree of file folders and what have you, as if it is a computer screen, a super-sized computer screen. And if the next person comes around and says, no, I'm more of a tablet and a smartphone kind of person, then same, press the button again, and it virtually flips around, and it becomes a supersized screen of it becomes a supersized smartphone almost. It's quite magnificent if you think about it.
Yeah, I am a little bit jealous because I do want to try it. I do want to test it. We're still restricted on travel, and there is one fellow global thought leader, a good friend of mine, Professor Dr. Emre Alkin, hey Emre, who has actually tried it out already in Turkey. And I'm not too happy about that because I want to try it out, and I may have to wait until Mobile World Congress, since that seems to be happening this year. And I just want to play with it. I want to see if what I saw actually works. And I would love to do this drawing in person on an IdeaHub board. So please let me try it next time at whatever event.
Well, you're more than welcome when the restrictions are being lifted and you're able to, for example, go to one of our experience centers or one of our labs, or maybe just one of the Huawei offices to experience that. Exactly. We can do that. But yeah, if you would like to see how and where that works a bit, the screen behind me has different scenarios where that fits in a regular office meeting or environment. This meeting could be as well a classroom, as a mobile office, huddle environments, open office spaces, medical university environments, you name it. It's like, let me see if I can move around a bit. So here you see a few examples of how that works, but on the other side, right, you see it here as well. So these are all examples of where that board would fit just nice, and just like I'm here, I represent the board because I'm right in the middle. That's what this board does as well.
Exactly,
it's really a hub.
Left is what reminds me to the flip chart, because it is so old school, but again, it's a flip chart on steroids for anyone that is not really into tech and without using any buzzword.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's a lot of things on steroid. That's for sure. It's a lot of things on steroid. It's collaboration on steroids.
Yeah, and the other thing that I noticed also is how clear and sharp the screen was. And I also read about the sound capabilities. So for everyone that loves
4K, 4K and ultra HD and ultra audio, 4K is the minimum level is the entry level that we got.
That is pretty high end. So what would you say are the top 3 specs that stand out the most for you? Because I know there are multiple, but what are the top 3?
Already, and I think all of them are top notch. Number one, really, what I found astonishing, I've worked for other companies and I've been in this domain before, including doing unboxing of these kind of solutions. What I've found really amazing is the moment it got out of the box and we put this on the stand and we fired it up. So we put it in a power socket. That was all it took. It was like your smartphone out of the box. For the first time, you got your smartphone, and you need to get your old files from your old smartphone to your new one. So what do? You log on with your password and login name to whatever operating system you're using, whether it's Apple or Android or what have you. Really works like that. Then you select your services, which if this would be a class environment, you would have applications, I guess, somewhere in the cloud that you now need to log on to for learning management, student following, in their learning proceeding, or you're a teacher that has your curriculum already partially online. You got office services going on. It's like a smartphone, really. I cannot say anything else. It's really just like your smartphone, whatever smartphone you got or whatever tablet you got. That's amazing. The second one is what I said. No more cables. Really, the only cable you got is the power cable. And even that one you don't need, because once it's charged, you know, it stays with you for like 4 or 6 hours, which I think is also amazing. But that's not the part of no more cables I mean. No more cables that you need if you want to share information from your screen straight away as part of the energy in a room where teams are sharing ideas and come to the next ideas for new products and so on and so forth. You know, these high tension, high energy, filled with room of ideas and so on and so forth is usually losing its energy if someone needs to find something first before we can move on. This keeps it going just because it's wireless. And then the other part, the last part really is this whiteboard function, you know, that with your hand you wipe it clean. There is no dirtiness on the sleeve of your jacket or what have you. Even if this is a whiteboard, right? You always need like an eraser or what have you. It smears. This is as clean as it gets. It's really very clinical. It's clinically beautiful, I would say.
That is a very good sentence to end that. And we've covered so many things. And once again, I want to say thank you for keeping it jargon-free of very technological term. To make sure that
I tried my best. I tried my best.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Is there anything else, Edwin, that you would like to for us to know about IdeaHub? Anything we didn't cover or anything?
I'd say watch this channel. I'm sure you're going to share some links as the promotion of this recording goes out. But if not, you know, just search it or come and find us. Or go to our website or anywhere and see how that goes. Reach out to us and let one of our experts work with you. But you know, the best thing that you can do for us is get one.
Yeah, I will definitely be sharing the links, and before this video is over, I will, courtesy of Huawei and copyright of Huawei, I will include one of their recap videos of what IdeaHub is all about. Now, one last thought, Edwin, because I have to say that although I enjoyed your presentation and unboxing very much, there was another presentation on IdeaHub that wowed me just a tiny little bit more, really sorry to say, and that was the Burj Khalifa light show in Dubai. I would have to say it was quite an impressive light show. It was a very creative presentation of IdeaHub, and kudos to the team that created that show, as the delivery was on point. And Edwin, I believe that was the kickoff for Huawei's IdeaHub tour in the Middle East. Is that correct?
Starting in the Middle East and then going around the world. Yeah, it's the start of a world tour. Yeah, and I know what event you talked about. It was earlier this week, and folks can also find that online. It is quite amazing. The tallest building in the world on steroids.
Yeah,
presenting and promoting a collaboration tool on steroids. It was quite a combination then and there. But still, if you would go to or if you're in Dubai, I'm inviting you to join us at one of the floors in the Dubai Mall. I'm sure if you're living in Dubai, you know where that is. Just go to the Dubai Mall and follow the signs. There are specific areas where you can experience this yourself in the 4 parts that are around me and in the background from where I'm sitting in front of. Because these scenarios are up and running and live for you to experience. And bring your kids, because for your kids, it's fantastic to see how they can write and draw and do new things. We even have a touch screen version, mind you, of a piano on this super-sized screen. It's just fantastic for kids, and to see how they come up with new ideas to use this device. It's fantastic to see.
I look forward to visiting one of the experience centers when the restrictions, as you mentioned, are lifted. I'm sure that it's going to be a good experience. And with that said, thank you, Edwin, for another great video chat. Powerful insights shared always. This is Elise Quevedo. Until next time, thank you, Edwin.